What's up, guys? Welcome back to the No Tracers podcast, the show all about urban exploring. And today I wanted to talk to you guys about the crackdown on urban exploration that is currently taking place and the legal landscape of URBEX, which has long been debated. But let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome to the No Tracers podcast. If you've been wondering what goes on behind the closed doors of abandoned places, if you want to know the stories of the people who explore the rot and decay, well, this is the podcast you've been looking for. I'd like to welcome you to No Tracers. Hello, guys. My name is Kay. If you are new to the podcast, this is No Tracers. This show is full of interviews with other explorers from all over the world that love urban exploring and decay as much as you and I do. If you're new to the show, I try to post this show every Friday, but with my work schedule and travel schedule, it is difficult, especially because I don't always have time or room to bring my gear and record while I'm traveling and working. But trying to get back on it, especially with December being a slower month. Hopefully we'll be able to knock out a bunch of episodes. So you guys have some stuff to listen to when you are going to explore abandoned places that you love. That tends to be kind of the norm for this podcast. I get a lot of feedback saying that people listen to this while they're driving to bandos or while they're in bandos, which for me, I can't have AirPods in while I'm exploring because I need to, one, hear my surroundings, and two, I think that abandoned places have a voice and they kind of speak, whether it be from the wind flying through the broken windows, through the halls and slamming doors shut and things like that. But I think that these places have a soul in a way. And I mean, that might be a little woo-woo for some people, but I really do think that that places we go to can hold history and hold stories within the walls. And I think that's one of my favorite things about exploring abandoned places is that they do kind of speak to us in different ways. I would love to know if you guys feel the same way. Also, by the way, now on Spotify, you can actually leave comments on episodes, which is sick. So if you have feedback or if you want to kind of dive into the discussion part of the podcast, I would love to hear from you in the comments section on Spotify. I also post these episodes to my YouTube channel, which is No Tracers URBEX. If you want to get the podcast in that medium on YouTube, if you prefer listening to podcasts on YouTube, or if you want to see some of my exploration videos, there's a ton of stuff up there for you guys to check out. There's a lot of really cool, I'm dropping a 3-part video series coming up soon. I don't have a date for it yet. Basically, I went and explored this amazing place and it is set to be demolished soon. So I'm actually kind of waiting for the demolition to happen so that I can post this place. It's one of those really cherished places that I hold close to my heart, and it's really special in the URBEX community. And I wanted to kind of give it the send off it deserved, if you will. So there's some really cool stuff that will be coming out soon on the No Tracers YouTube channel. That being said, there will obviously also be some No Tracers podcast episodes coming out about that specific place as well. So there's definitely a lot of content coming soon for you guys. And in 2025, I'm gonna fucking explore more. You heard it here first. This is my promise to myself and to you. And I am a big believer in if you speak it into existence, it is more likely to happen. So I'm speaking it into existence that I will be exploring more in 2025. Whether it be solo, with groups, I don't know yet, but there are some messages being sent back and forth about some potential trips and things in 2025. So very much so looking forward to that. And secondly, I also think that I might work on another photography book. If you didn't know, I have 2 urban exploring themed photography books out. One is called No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. It's kind of like a photo book mixed with a storytelling book about some of my favorite explorations over the years. I put that out a few years ago. That was the first book I made. I actually started making that during COVID as something to do because it was a little slow. We didn't really know if we could even go outside, which is insane to think back at that time. And that's, for another podcast. But Yeah, and then I made the second book, which is called How to Explore Abandoned Buildings. That is a collaboration book. It's a photo book and a like tip/guide book. And also it's mixed with illustrations. So there is an explorer that goes by the name of Cursed Sketchbook. I think he just changed his username to Mr. Sketch. He is a Portuguese explorer and illustrator, and people submit images to him and he will like illustrate over top of their images. He'll add like monsters or like people, like shadow figures, things like that into the imagery. And he and I collaborated on a book together. I commissioned him to illustrate on top of my photos that would coincide with these different tips. And it's really cool. I think the book is super sick, and I get a lot of joy out of mailing those. So if you do want to get one of those, I will sign it for you and include a couple photo prints as well. You can pick one up at notracers.com if you're interested. There's also merch over on that website, shirts, hats, cool duffel bag, bunch of different things, patches, stickers, a bunch of stuff. So if you guys are interested in supporting the podcast and me as a creator, that is a great way to do so. Otherwise, subscribing and listening and sharing to the podcast and the YouTube channel are also a way to help. But yeah, enough of me like jabbering on about myself and my feelings and the things that I'm working on in the next year. But I feel like it's important. I haven't talked to you guys in like about a month, which is kind of insane for me. So I wanted to just do a little bit of catching up. But let's go ahead and get into what I wanted to talk about today. Urban exploration. There has been a recent crackdown on urban explorers, which I'm sure if you are if you're like a embedded part of the community, you've probably seen and heard a bunch of stuff about people getting arrested and property damage and, you know, things like that. So I really wanted to like kind of talk about this, about the actual, like what's actually going on and why it's happening. And there's this like debate whether urban exploring is like an art or a crime. And for a lot of people, it's like one side or the other. But for urban explorers, we're like kind of down the middle because we are trespassing, which is technically like against the law. But we're also capturing the essence and the history and documenting these places that have been abandoned. You know, nobody gives a shit about them, clearly. So like, why is it a crime for us to go in and document them? And I think that's not the issue. I think the issue is, you know, the property damage and the kind of shady underworld shit that goes on in abandoned buildings. And I think that's kind of the main issue here. The hidden dangers, if you will, of exploring abandoned places, which we all like know and respect and understand that there are dangers when we are going into these types of places. Otherwise, we wouldn't fucking do it. If we weren't prepared and if we didn't understand that was a thing, we probably wouldn't do it. Or you know what I mean? Like, that's why most people don't go into these places, is because they are dangerous. But we kind of like look past the danger and see the beauty behind it. And we like pull that curtain back and we're like, we're going to go in here anyway, even though I could get, you know, killed in a bando or die myself. You know, we've heard stories of people falling down elevator shafts and falling off roofs. There was a recent episode of No Tracers where my guest actually talked about seeing someone fall off a roof. And if you did not listen to that episode, I highly, highly implore you to go listen to that one. It was quite a doozy. And just like hearing the kind of the details of what happened during that exploration. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the episode is with Hysterical Panic. Go check it out. It's called He Saw a Kid Fall Off a Roof While Urban Exploring. It's a wild episode. Not only that, but like injury is something that happens frequently, unfortunately. I just had my most recent episode that came out last month was with Tim Stagraff, and he actually talked about falling through a pool cover that was kind of hidden and injuring his leg pretty badly. He's still out of commission right now, which is insane. But those are the risks we're willing to take to capture these places with our cameras. And just a note, like a sidebar, something that I've really gotten into recently is actually film photography. I am a videographer by trade. I have a bachelor's degree in film production that I got while I was living overseas. But I lived in the Middle East for a bit when I was a teenager and a young adult, and then moved to Australia to finish school. and then moved back to America. But when I lived in Australia, I was in Perth, which is in Western Australia, for those of you that don't know. It's like the most isolated city on the planet. It's the journey to get there is long and boring because you're just sitting on an airplane for like 19 hours, and then you have another like 6 to 8 hour flight across Australia to Perth. So once you're there, you're kind of there. Anyway, that being said, my class for film production school, trade school that I went to was called SAE Institute. It's the School of Audio Engineering, but they now have games design or games development, web design, graphic design, film production. They've expanded, which is sick, and animation now, which is cool. And I wish I had studied animation because everything I know about videography and filmmaking I learned outside of school after I graduated. It's just kind of how a trade goes. You have to get like practical hands-on experience to really learn. But the year before us, and the prior years, they all did their final project for film school shot on film. Like they did a project shot on film. When my year was like preparing to do that, they told us that we aren't doing that this year or anymore. We're just shooting on digital because the year prior, they shipped off their film across Australia to the East Coast to get developed. And somewhere along the way, it was not refrigerated properly. All the film was burned up and destroyed. And so they were like, we just can't, it's just not worth the money and the hassle to try to get it developed and back to us. And so I never got to learn on film. But recently, I've been watching a lot of photographers that post on YouTube and Instagram that have gotten into film photography. And it's kind of sparked something inside me to kind of give it a go. So and a few years ago, I was actually in Greece for a job and found this sick camera in a market, and the guy wanted it was at like a stall, and this mom was kind of running the stall. Her son was kind of walking around. He was like a adult son, but still the son. And the mom was like, "Oh, it's 100, like 100, euros or pound, whatever the fuck, euros, Greece." And I was like, "Oh, I only have 50." And she was like, "Sorry, it's my son's. I can't just like give it to you for less because he's not here." And I was like, "Oh, it's okay. No problem. Thank you though." And I walked away. And then, as I was walking away, her son, I guess they communicated, and her son like came and found me and was like, "Hey, I would love for you to have this camera. I don't have any use for it. If you have 50 euros cash, I'll give it to you right now." And I was like, "Bet." So I handed him the money and he gave me the camera. I took that camera home. I have since done research on it. And here's the other thing. We were talking about how buildings have history. I think that cameras also have history, like the things that they've documented over time kind of are carried with them. Again, a little woo-woo, superstitious type shit, but whatever. The camera that I have is called the Kiev 4A. If you've never heard of it, you should definitely look it up. It's pretty sick. But this camera was created during the Cold War era. Specifically, my actual camera, you can tell on the serial number what year your camera was manufactured if it's this specific model of camera. Mine was made in 1971 by the Soviets. So during the Cold War, they took over warehouses in Kiev, Ukraine, and they essentially moved their camera manufacturing to Kiev. So this specific camera is called the Kiev 4A because it was made there. And it's sick. It has like a built-in rangefinder and a light meter built into the camera. So like the hard thing about shooting on film is you usually have to carry a separate light meter with you, but this camera's got one built in, so it tells you like what you need to adjust for your images. And so I've started shooting abandoned places on film, and I literally just went over to my web browser. I just got some photos back from my most recent exploration. And when I tell you, I'm about to open them live right now on, oh my God. They sent a note. It said the roll shows several areas of a light leaks and there are only 15 scannable exposures. I'm going to go ahead and check them out while I'm live with you guys on this podcast. So these images I took at this abandoned place that I will be talking about shortly. Oh my God, they're insane. These photos are fucking crazy, but I'm going backwards. I need to go from the front. Okay, we're going from the beginning. Okay, that one's not really usable. That one's fucking sick. Okay, the light leaks are beautiful. Oh, these photos are so fucking dope, dude. I'm framing these for sure. I should just make a photo book. These are beautiful. Oh my God, they turned out so perfect. Oh my God, you guys are going to die when you see these photos that I post on Instagram. These are so sick, man. Like vintage looking. Oh my God, these are Sorry, I'm continuing to go through them and oh my God, they're fucking perfect, dude. I am so proud of myself. I'm getting so much better at film photography. These are fucking crazy, bro. They're beautiful. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay, I'm downloading them immediately while I'm talking to you guys. These are insane and I can't wait to, oh my God. Sorry for the side tangent, but I literally was like, I wonder if I got those film photos if they're developed. And sure enough, sure as shit, as I'm recording this podcast, wow, that's crazy. Okay, so back to what I was talking about. Sorry about that side tangent. Wow, I'm floored right now, you guys. I can't wait to share these online. People are going to trip out. This place hasn't been captured on film, I don't think. Or if it has, it's probably been like 1 or 2 people. I'm stoked on these, man. This is sick. But anyway, aside from that, back to, I don't even know what I was talking about before this. Forgive me, but like that was really fucking exciting for me to like just see and to look at these while I was on the podcast. That's so sick. Damn, I'm excited. I'm going to share some of these with people. Oh, what a trip, man. All right. Anyway, so, film photography. So yeah, super into film photography right now. And, I've been printing some of my film photos out and putting them. So, in my house, I have a bunch of, abandoned places that I photographed framed up in my house, like in my office/studio, in the living room, in the hallways, kind of everywhere. And this photo, this, gallery of photos I just had developed on film, I'm for sure getting some of those printed, and I'm going to hang those up too. Wow, that's so cool. Anyway, so film photography aside, you guys are just getting to know me a little bit, and I feel like this is like an ADHD podcast. It's kind of all over the place, but it's been a while, and there's a lot I want to talk about, so I hope that's cool with you guys. But yeah, so back to like this whole crackdown on the URBEX community and the dangers and things like that. So recently there have been a lot more arrests being made by local authorities when they get calls about abandoned places. And some places, there's a spot in LA right now that is kind of I need to go over there and explore this place soon, actually, before it's gone, because it's about to get sold in January, and it's kind of like a hot spot right now, and people have been like caught there, but they're released almost immediately because the current owner, the story behind this place is crazy. The current owner is like this Chinese investor, and essentially he like bought this property and like intentionally left it halfway built to kind of shit on America. It's crazy. Like this story of this place is fucking insane. So it's been kind of like destroyed, and it's become like a massive eyesore in Los Angeles. You probably know what I'm talking about if you know anything about the URBEX community and hotspots right now. But that's why people that get caught there, they're almost immediately released, because they call the property owner and he's like, yeah, I don't care, release them, because he doesn't give a fuck about America or like American real estate or anything. He did this on purpose to like give the middle finger to the US essentially. So, but they are, LA is selling it to someone else, or like someone else is taking over the property basically to like finish building it. But it's just funny, the whole story around this place. But I really want to go there and capture that place. But something a lot of newer urban explorers don't understand is that some of these locations are federal property. And if you're arrested on federal property, and Sam and Colby could attest to this, I'm going to try and get them on the podcast in 2025 to talk about, they've pivoted away from urban exploring into like more paranormal stuff because of what happened to them. If you don't know, Sam and Colby are two like really high profile urban explorers, or were high profile urban explorers that are now doing, like I said, more paranormal type stuff and like overnight stays and stuff, renting places out now, because they were arrested, I believe in Florida, on a construction site, but it was like a federal property construction site. So if you are arrested on federal property and convicted, it is a felony, and that goes on your record as a fucking felony, which is like, not great. So I tried to like steer away and tell people to steer away from federal property because of that reason. Like, you really don't want a felony on your record because you were trying to take some fucking photos. Like, come on, guys. That's not the way. But yeah, that's what happened to Sam and Colby, and that's why they like pivoted away from urban exploring. But yeah, I think a lot of like newer explorers are just like, oh, let's go hit the biggest, baddest shit, without realizing like, yo, like the consequences for getting caught at some of these places is actually insane. And I mean, I've done my fair share of federal property urban exploring, so I like don't follow my example, but like to maybe take my advice from what I've learned from exploring and from friends that have been arrested while exploring. I've actually had a few episodes of the podcast that I've had to like unlist or turn back into like drafts, basically take offline, because the explorers got arrested and they have like pending cases. So they were like, hey, for now, can you just like remove my episode? And I'm like, absolutely. I don't want them to use my podcast as evidence against like somebody that I'm friends with. That's crazy. So yeah, if anybody ever comes on the show and they have legal issues, I'm always happy to like remove the episode. I'm not trying to like stir shit up or anything like that, but it is wild. So yeah, just like know if you are a newer urban explorer, or maybe you're seasoned and you just don't know, like federal property, you could get a felony on your record. The other thing is, I just recently saw a post that was shared with me on, it was like a Reddit post on the urban exploration Reddit, r-urban exploration. This was from like 8 months ago, but it just got shared with me, and I'm just gonna like read the post to you guys. First of all, the headline is amazing. It says arrested at abandoned prison. Like that is just like an oxymoron in itself. I've explored an abandoned jail and a cop like camped outside for us to come out. We managed to get away with it, but that being said, like if we had been arrested at that place, like it would have been so funny to be arrested at a jail. Like that's just like it's just so fucking ironic to me. Anyway, so headline says arrested at abandoned prison. And the poster is impossible_savings11 on Reddit. I want to make sure to credit you. The post says, me and my friends went to check out an abandoned prison. When we left, there was multiple police cars surrounding my friend's car, and they came up and detained us. We originally got charged with trespassing, but they found a license plate we took from outside the prison in my friend's bag, so we were arrested for second-degree burglary. Charges got dropped, luckily, but we still had to stay in a holding cell for over 10 hours without knowing what was going to happen to us. Gonna quit urbexing, sadly, because that shit was no joke. Stay safe out there, guys. This post has 2.4 thousand upvotes and 169 comments. Most of the comments say, like, I guess that's why pros always say, do not take anything. Somebody else said, you shouldn't take anything to not ruin the fun for other explorers, in my honest opinion. And then people under that are like, I had no clue there's an abandoned prison in this state. Sucks you got caught, just gotta lay low for a bit. Also, just don't park near the building you're exploring and don't take anything. Obviously. These are like obvious things that like seasoned explorers will also know better than to like do these things. So I something tells me these guys might have been like newer explorers, but you know, it is what it is. Also, I feel like I should join the r-urbex urban exploring Reddit. It's probably another cesspool of shit. It's a fucking dumpster fire on the internet everywhere you go. But I mean, it could be cool for some like connections and stories and things. So maybe I'll jump into there. Find me at No Tracers on Reddit, I guess. Okay, anyway. So that being said, there are like some evolving laws and regulations that are kind of targeting urban exploration specifically. There's like harsher penalties. There's some new legislation that is kind of being put into place, which like isn't great for us, that they're like making things more specific. And there's not like much online now, but obviously trespassing, we know the laws vary state to state. And there's kind of like the issue is like, it's a creative practice to us, but like the legal perspective is that like landowners should kind of take preventative measures to secure their premises if they think that urban explorers are getting into them, or if they think that they might. So, like, it's kind of like the door's open, like I'm gonna go in there kind of like I said, it's like a very gray area, and that's what we just risk the arrest to get the shots and to get the experience, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, there are harsher penalties kind of rolling out and new legislation kind of directed towards urban exploring, which hopefully, like, if I'm being honest, like, if there are new penalties specifically for urban explorers, I hope that they're less harsh than like like trespassing and burglary and destruction of property and that stuff goes, because like if you're just there to take photos, like, you're obviously not fucking shit up. You shouldn't be punished the same way. That's why law is so like complicated, and I am not a legal representative. Do not take this as legal advice ever. I'm just an idiot that loves exploring abandoned places. And I happen to have a platform and a podcast to talk about it. But I'm wondering from you guys, like, as the community, are these more frequent arrests, are they kind of making you pull back from exploring, or are you doubling down? Also, depending on like your age range, like if you're low to mid 20s versus like low to mid 30s, like, did you slow down in your urban exploration as you got older because the consequences are kind of bigger as you get older? I'm also always curious about that kind of stuff. So if you have thoughts and opinions on that specific thing, please leave a comment below. I would love to like kind of discuss that a bit more, just out of curiosity, like what your perspective is. But yeah, there's so many, I've had so many friends get like caught and like detained and arrested and things like that. It's just kind of, I hate to say it's like a part of this, but it kind of is, you know, like at some point your luck's going to run out probably. But then, you know, we go into like the ethics side of things, which is again, more legal stuff that I'm not super well versed on, but obviously like there's a difference between photographers and vandals and criminals exploring these places and getting in these places. And that's why I have this leave no trace policy or philosophy, is because like if you're not destroying stuff, you're probably going to be fine in the long run if you do get caught, versus if you are in there vandalizing stuff, tagging shit, taking shit, things like that. And like, of course, probably 98% of explorers have taken something from a bando. I'm guilty of it. You're probably guilty of it. I'm the first to say that I've done it. And I have a platform, and I'm telling you, don't do it. But I have done it. I am guilty of it. I do also, I did have an idea that I kind of wanted to run by you guys, but I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it publicly yet. But just know there's something in the works that I'm working on. But yeah, my perspective and like my take on this issue is like, I draw a line on, I don't break and enter. If it's not open, I'm not going to break in to get in, because that's a charge in itself. If you have a crowbar in your bag, if you have a lock picking kit, like those are all additional B&E charges that you just don't want on your record. So I'm pretty like firm on like, I'm not going to be the one to break into a place. I've gone with people that have lock picking kits. I've gone people that have crowbars to pull boards back, but I myself will not be caught with a crowbar or a lock picking kit. I'm not going to break a window open. I'm not going to like pry open a door. If it's not accessible, I'm just not about it. And I've been on road trips where we've hit 3, 4, 5 places that are inaccessible, and we've said, okay, well, this is a fail of a trip, but it's okay. Failure is an option. You can't hit everything, and that's okay. That's a part of it too. But it's not about the journey or the destination. It's about the company that you have for the journey in the explore. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But yeah, I am definitely curious to hear your thoughts and some of your stories. If you guys have any interest in dropping those down in the comment section, I would love to hear from you. As far as like, you know, where we go from here, we'll just have to see like what the new laws kind of roll out, that they're going to be. Also, I think it's interesting that this might be leading more people, like there might be like a shift in location trends. So I think some explorers are turning to like lesser known or international sites due to these tighter restrictions and the heightening awareness in the popular locations in the US specifically. Could be a cool opportunity and challenge for the URBEX community, but could also make things harder when you travel abroad. And not to say it's not hard when you travel abroad. Big Banks is what has recently been overseas, and he's had a really rough time exploring recently. Like he told me through message that he was with Jeremy Explorers, and they hit like 8 spots and got into like 1 or 2 of them. Or they had been there for like 2 weeks and had only gotten into like a couple spots, which sucks, man. But it is definitely becoming more commonplace to run into issues when you're exploring abandoned places. And I think overseas, like, it's a little scarier. Like, if you're arrested in fucking Russia, like, you're fucked. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I recently talked about that explorer that ended up dying when he was trying to go to the abandoned space shuttle in the Baikonur Cosmodrome over in fucking Kazakhstan, I think it is. I can't fucking remember. Anyway, so these two, if you didn't listen to that episode, just the TLDR is that 2 explorers went to go see those space shuttles. You have to trek like 30 kilometers across the tundra. His friend overheated and was like, I can't go on. I'm fucking done. And he was like, well, I have to go get you help. So his friend went to get the military at the military checkpoint, which was like the closest help that he could find. So he gets to the checkpoint. They take him back to his friend. His friend died of exposure in the fucking desert, tundra, whatever. And they then arrested homeboy. I don't know what happened after that. I don't know if he was released. I don't know where he was from. I don't know who he is. They weren't named in any of the like documents, so I don't even know how to find them. I would like to talk to that guy, but goddamn, his friend died. That's fucking intense. So I don't know if he'd be willing to talk about that, but I mean, fuck, dude, it's hard. But yeah. Anywho, yeah, there are shifting trends, though. I think a lot of people are trying to go more international. But yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts and your opinions. If you want to come on the No Tracers podcast, you can hit me up at contact@notracers.com or no.tracers on Instagram. Yeah, check out the merch, the photo books, all the good things. And if you're new, hit the subscribe button. If you're a veteran listener, leave me a rating. It helps the podcast grow. It helps us find more listeners just like you. And hey, let's end 2024 with good positiveness, positive thoughts and things. And yeah, let's kick off 2025 with a bang. What do you say? Thanks, guys. Stay strong, keep enduring. Go out, go explore something, and remember, leave no trace.